February 24, 2022. Russian tanks roll into Ukraine. Within hours, Europe scrambles to respond. But one leader takes center stage. Not from Germany, the continent's traditional powerhouse, but from France. Emmanuel Macron dials Putin, brokers emergency summits, and pledges French military aid. This wasn't just diplomacy. It was a calculated move in France's bold play to dominate Europe. For decades, Germany was the economic powerhouse of Europe, dictating policy and keeping the EU together. But today, Germany is struggling. Its economy is slowing down, industrial production is declining, and energy dependence on Russia backfired. Meanwhile, France sees an opening, a chance to replace Germany as Europe's de facto leader. But economic power alone isn't enough. France knows that to lead, it must also dominate politics and security. Since Charlemagne, France has seen itself as Europe's natural leader. Napoleon nearly pulled it off. After World War II, France did the unexpected. It partnered with its old rival Germany to build the EU. But behind the scenes, France always wanted to steer the ship. The 1950 Schuman Plan, a French idea, created the European Coal and Steel Community, the EU's precursor. But Germany's economic miracle changed the dynamics. By the 1980s, the relationship had evolved into what many called the Franco-German engine, a partnership where Germany provided economic muscle while France contributed political vision. This arrangement worked well for decades, but three recent developments have changed everything. First, the 2008 financial crisis and subsequent Eurozone troubles revealed Germany's economic dominance, with Chancellor Angela Merkel effectively dictating austerity policies across the continent. Second, Brexit removed the UK as a counterweight to German influence, creating a power vacuum. Third, Angela Merkel's departure after 16 years left Germany with less experienced leadership under Olaf Scholz, who has struggled to maintain Germany's traditional role. Macron, since his election in 2017, has positioned himself as the visionary leader Europe needs. His famous Sorbonne speech that year outlined an ambitious agenda for European integration. He called for a Europe that protects its citizens with a joint military, tax reforms, and a Buy European Act to counter China and the US. Critics laughed. Then came Brexit, Trump, and Putin. And suddenly, Macron's vision didn't seem so crazy. Macron's vision represents a fundamental shift, away from the technocratic, economic-focused EU that Germany championed, toward a more political, sovereign, and strategic Europe. For decades, Germany was Europe's economic engine. But in 2022, Russia's war exposed Germany's fatal flaw: dependence on Russian gas. Factories stalled, inflation soared. Meanwhile, France's 56 nuclear reactors kept lights on, and Macron's credibility up. Germany's military? Underfunded and outdated. France spends 2% of GDP on defense, meets NATO targets, and has 290 nuclear warheads. When Macron said Europe shouldn't be just a market, but a power, Germany struggled to respond. Europe faces its most serious security crisis since World War II. Germany's initial response? Sending 5,000 helmets. France's? Immediate military equipment and a clear commitment to stand with Ukraine. The contrast was striking. Germany's hesitation revealed the consequences of decades of underinvestment in defense. France, meanwhile, emerged as Europe's premier military power, the only EU country with nuclear weapons and a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. As the United States recalibrates its focus globally, NATO seeks robust leadership within Europe. Macron envisions France fulfilling this role, advocating for a more autonomous European defense mechanism that complements NATO while reducing over-reliance on US military support. This ambition reflects a modern iteration of Gaullist principles, emphasizing strategic autonomy within a cooperative framework. In Munich, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz pledges €100 billion for defense, but it's reactive. Macron, meanwhile, signs deals with Eastern European states to sell French-made tanks and jets, Poland buys 26 Rafale fighter jets in 2023, snubbing German and American rivals. France isn't waiting for permission. For decades, Germany's manufacturing prowess and export success made it Europe's economic powerhouse. But the world is changing. The combustion engine is giving way to electric vehicles. Russian gas is no longer a reliable energy source. And China is both a market and a competitor. France sees these disruptions as an opportunity. The French economy, less dependent on manufacturing exports than Germany's, may be better positioned for the digital and green transitions. Look at the nuclear sector. While Germany shut down its nuclear plants, France doubled down, announcing plans to build up to 14 new reactors. With the energy crisis highlighting the need for secure, low-carbon power, France's nuclear expertise gives it an edge. One of the biggest ways Macron is trying to solidify France's leadership is through foreign policy. Unlike Germany, which aligns closely with US interests, France is playing a more independent game. Macron has been strengthening ties with China, negotiating with Russia despite tensions, and maintaining a strong influence in Africa. France's military region in the Sahel region, for example, has been key in fighting terrorism, but it's also a way for France to maintain strategic control in its former colonies. By positioning itself as a diplomatic heavyweight, France is building credibility as the one European nation that can negotiate with all sides, rather than just following Washington's lead. But France's path to European leadership isn't without obstacles. Domestically, Macron faces challenges. His 2022 re-election was less decisive than his first victory, and he lost his parliamentary majority. The rise of both the far-right National Rally and the left-wing New Popular Front complicates his ability to push his European agenda. The Yellow Vest protests and more recent pension reform riots highlight the social tensions within France. How can Macron lead Europe when parts of his own country reject his vision? Economically, France still lags behind Germany in many metrics. Its public debt exceeds 110% of GDP, its unemployment rate remains higher, and its trade balance is deeply negative. And not all European countries welcome French leadership. A major challenge for France is uniting a divided Europe. Eastern European countries in particular are skeptical of France's leadership, fearing it could weaken NATO's ties to the US. Meanwhile, France's approach to EU reforms has met resistance from Northern and Central European nations, who prefer a more decentralized approach. Can Macron persuade these nations to follow his vision, or will European fragmentation prevent France from ever truly leading? France's bid for European leadership represents more than just national ambition. It reflects a vision of Europe as a sovereign power in a multipolar world, capable of defending its interests, promoting its values, and shaping its destiny. This vision challenges the post-Cold War order, where Europe relied on American security guarantees and focused primarily on economic integration. One thing's clear: France isn't asking for a place at the table. It's building its own table and daring Europe to follow. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.